Well, the first match, as we were just referencing, was Roman Reigns and Goldberg for the Universal Championship, which is different than the World Championship because the universe is bigger, of course, but still they've got two world champions. So they couldn't put the smaller championship, the one that only encompasses this planet, on first because that's being contested in a 5 or 6 man, however many were, elimination chamber. So they put the biggest world title match on first to jerk the curtain right after they mentioned the late, and apparently this was a shoot. They had a late arriving crowd because they had a traffic jam outside this big ass stadium. Apparently it was camel lock everywhere and people couldn't get in.
Come on.
No, every corner. It was like, even though the lights would change, the next camel couldn't move. So your camel couldn't get out and they blocked the interstate. You see it in New York.
Well, you see a lot of things in New York.
Well, that's true. And so the people probably, I guess maybe some of them miss this, but apparently there was a traffic situation outside so the Universal title is on. They did great packages, as they always do. We've talked about this, but the packages are always impeccable packages from the WWE. But by the time that they blew off all the fucking pyro and played the packages for these two guys in this issue and did the announcer obligatory intros and billboard, etc., and hello, Fubar Makafakaloob and Slapco Fudd, good to see you again. It was 17 minutes into the show before the bell rang for the first match. And I was getting a little antsy at that point. But then I figured out why it took so long to get to the start of it, because it wasn't going to take long from there to get to the finish. The crowd was hot. They may be afraid not to be. I'm not sure how they've been recruited to be part of this extravaganza, but if they're allowed of their own free will to come in on their own, I guess, especially if they're men, they're seeing entertainment the likes of which I would assume they don't get a chance to see often over there, have until recently, so they're hot. And everybody still watching wrestling at this point knows who Goldberg is and knows what these people know what's going on with this show because they made a big deal out of it. But do we have a read, Brian, on how smart are the fans in Saudi Arabia? I mean, I don't mean, I'm sure that Slapco is probably the smartest, fan in Saudi Arabia, but I'm talking about the average person. They know it's entertainment, but they don't know the machinations behind it, or where are they at over there?
I have no idea. And also, I'm not even sure what the crowd makeup is in terms of, what percentage of that crowd actually paid for tickets, what percentage of the crowd were given tickets by the kingdom. I really don't know how it works.
Well, anyway, everybody on this side of the pond, over here in this country at least, and watching on the streaming everywhere, everybody still watching wrestling knows that Goldberg wasn't going to probably win this match, right? Because their booking has already been fucked up. And that would just kind of make it even screwier. So that's what I'm talking about, the law of diminishing returns, when you have to bring a guy back multiple times, but each time you sort of treat it like that it's the last time. See The Last Stampede. And then 2 years later, he's out of retirement again.
No, the next year. And then the year after that.
I'm sorry. I was going to say 2 years later and then the year after that. But it was, So, I think it was a flat-footed punch and kick match with their big moves sprinkled in. Because, like you said, Heyman. But Goldberg hits a spear. And then Roman Reigns just immediately turns a jackhammer into a rock bottom, and Reigns hits a Superman punch, but then Goldberg spears him again. And at one point, you see Roman Reigns got a face like Goldberg's head was bleeding again. Does he get busted open somehow hard way in every match he has?
He was bleeding also, I think, from his shoulder at one point. So, yeah, I think so. I had the same thought while watching the match.
God, it's like, Steen one time. We wanted to put him as somebody in Ring of Honor in a First Blood match, right? And he called us, me and Delirious. He said, well, I have a skin condition. Some of my armpit bleeds randomly sometimes. What? Yeah, so maybe it wouldn't be good me to be in a First Blood match. I'm like, what the? Just wear a goddamn t-shirt. Anyway, so Reigns gets a front face lock, and I see that Goldberg's head's bleeding again, and Reigns is holding it, and that was it. So, I mean, I know he's 52, and yeah, but still, it's kind of like Dick the Bruiser, flat-footed punch and kick. Let's go out on the floor for a second, rattle each other around the table and the rail, back in, couple big moves. And he just choked Goldberg out, and that is kind of a flat way to beat fucking Goldberg. But since this was the last match on his contract, once again, do you think are they going to close the chapter by the last time you see Goldberg in a WWE ring is getting choked out by Roman Reigns, and then in a year and a half they got to bring him back and they write another chapter on the end of the book they've already closed and add that on like a fucking screen door on a submarine or a
In terms of wrestling, we never got the payoff to the thing. Was it last time in Saudi Arabia, Goldberg and Lashley, where they beat up Goldberg's son?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we never got the payoff. We don't know if Goldberg will just be back the next time, the Saudis want him. It's hard to say, like, what do you do with him? He is the kind of guy as a name that you would think, oh, we should position something special for him at WrestleMania, but the law of diminishing returns, as you said, and as we're going to say a lot, when it comes to some of this stuff, you've seen him so often. When was the last time he won a match? What are you going to do with him? And I actually thought, you could say the finish was flat-footed and you wouldn't be wrong, but I actually thought it was kind of depressing. You don't want to see Dick the Bruiser get choked out. Well, that's not the way you want to see him go. Yeah, I mean, beyond it just being a flat finish, considering who was in it, it's not the way you want to see it end. So I don't think it'll be the last time we see him.
Yeah, and it just, nobody was ready for it to happen because most of the time, the other problem kicks in and the matches go too long and wear out their welcome. This could it have been 6 minutes? The entrances were longer.
And it was exactly the match I thought it would be. Big move match. That's what you have to do with Goldberg.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It should have been a big move that flattened him for a 1-2-3 decisive victory for Roman Reigns. I can understand that, but just grabbing it and holding it and he don't get out of it, it was not only decisive, but it was flat. It was boring. It was kind of like,
Is that what it was like?
It was kind of like, It wasn't really, it was,
Well, if Goldberg's unhappy with the way he's being used right now, maybe when he gets home, when he gets back to the States, he could sit down and call somebody to talk about his problems. Call somebody, Goldberg.
He could call somebody. And you heard me go, I'm going to need to call somebody to figure this one out. But then you jumped right in there to talk about his problems. And folks, if you have depression caused by a large Samoan choking you out in front of 25,000 people in Saudi Arabia, then possibly you should have somebody to talk to. Or if you live a normal life in a normal place and you have normal problems, and everybody does, then you need somebody to talk to as well. And that's where the folks at BetterHelp come in. They have been sponsoring our fine podcast for quite some time, and we've had feedback galore from the members of the Cult of Cornette that sent the email saying that BetterHelp made a change in their life, helped them in a positive way, or in other words, did something beneficial for their positive well-being, and they can do the same thing for you. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's professional therapy done securely online with a broad range of expertise that may not be locally available, or you might just not want to go out and talk to somebody that lives 3 blocks away from you about your various issues. So this way it's professional and remote. And actually, in any type of interaction with other human beings, as we know, is best done in limited scheduled doses and remotely. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches. They make it easy and free to change therapists if you need, and it's more affordable than traditional offline therapy. So, visit their website, BetterHelp, that's H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/JCE. You can read the testimonials that are posted daily from the over 2 million people. 2 million now, Brian. We bumped them up 1 million. When they started with us, they were over 1 million. We brought them another 1 million in just the last 2 or 3 years. Join the over 2 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional at BetterHelp.com. You get 10% off your first month's services when you go to BetterHelp.com/JCE. They're actually recruiting additional therapists to take care of the demand that we alone, Brian, are sending them.
And, I just checked because you said 20,000 there, and then you talked about millions. The actual attendance in Jeddah at the Superdome, that's a trademark infringement if I've ever heard of one.
Hey, wait a minute.
33,328.
They should have just put 5 more people in.
To get all threes?
Yeah, just 5 more. Why not? BetterHelp.
BetterHelp.